Now, this is strange. When people get power, they usually do this. Are y'all familiar with the country of Liberia? Liberia is a very interesting country. Liberia was formed by the American Colonization Society. American Colonization Society. Started in 1822. And between 1822 and 1867, they had transported 13,000 black Americans to Liberia. This American Colonization Society believed that black people would not make it in America, that white people would always be racist against them, and that they would have a better chance of making it in Africa. So they bought some land in Africa and started sending black people to Africa, and these black people formed a country called Liberia. If you look at the flag from the country of Liberia, it looks just like the American flag with one star. The capital of the country is called Monrovia. It's named after the president, James Monroe. James Monroe was our fourth president of the United States. You had George Washington, you had John Adams, you had Thomas Jefferson, then you had James Madison, then you had James Monroe. After him, you had John Adams, and then you had Andrew Jackson, then you had Martin Van Buren, and then you had William Henry Harrison, then you had John Tyler, and then you had James K. Polk, you had Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore. We can go on down the line. Franklin Pierce, Buchanan, Lincoln, Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, and Garfield, and on and on. So, Liberia comes about. The black people go to Liberia. Black Americans. They have black American culture. Well, they have American culture. They have American language. They have American religion. And soon as they get to Liberia, you know what they start doing? Yeah, they started discriminating against the Africans in Liberia. Just like the white folks were discriminating against black people in America, they started doing the same thing to the Africans. Now here it is. The Americo-Liberian settlers did not relate well to the indigenous people they encountered, especially those in communities of more isolated the bush area. The colonial settlements were raided by the Kru, K-R-U, and the Grebo, G-R-E-B-O, Grebo or Grebo, G-R-E-B-O, from their inland chiefdoms. Encounters with tribal Africans in the bush often became violent. Believing themselves different from and culturally and educationally superior to the indigenous people, listen again, believing themselves to be different from and culturally and educationally superior to the indigenous people, the Americo-Liberians, and that's what they call themselves, Americo-Liberians, developed an elite minority that created and held on to political power. Sound like apartheid, don't it? Sounds like South Carolina and Mississippi in the South after the Civil War. The Americo-Liberian settlers adopted clothing such as hoop skirts and tailcoats and generally viewed themselves as culturally and socially superior to indigenous Africans. Indigenous tribesmen did not enjoy birthright citizenship in their own land until 1904. So, black folks left America, took American ways into Africa, and treated Africans the exact same way as white people treated them in America. As I told you before, people are not treated badly because of the color of their skin or because of their race. They are treated badly because they're weak. They're oppressed and they're victimized because they are weak. You must fight against weakness because, dog, you ain't going to change the color of your skin. That's not going to happen. But if you find a white person that's weak, a bully is going to mistreat them. If you find an Asian person that's weak, a bully is going to mistreat them. And if you find yourself a black person that's weak, a bully is going to mistreat them. But didn't nobody mess with Bruce Lee, did they? Yeah, he was Asian. Bruce Lee would beat the hell out of anybody. Talk about that tall. It didn't play. on, man. If you're strong, you run stuff. If you're weak, you don't. Jack Johnson was knocking out white men in 1909, running around with white women. Nobody bothered Jack Johnson. He died in a car wreck. Talk more trash. You think Ali talk trash. Jack Johnson walked around with gold teeth in his mouth. He'd walk into a ring with 100,000 white folks hollering, kill the N-word, and Jack Johnson go in there and knock the white man out and then walk out with a white woman and when nobody put their hands on it. He knocked out the Great White Hope in Reno, Nevada back in, I think it was 1909. Jim Jeffries. Just beat him like a dog.
They say I'm controversial. They say that I'm bold, but I wasn't nothing like Jack Johnson.
Listen, in 1908, you got lynched for looking at white women, reckless eyeballing. He married 3 of them.
Wow.
I don't put myself in the league of Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson's fighting in the ring, and there's 75,000 people saying, I'm going to kill you if you hurt him.
Reno, Nevada, July 4th, 1910. 20,000 hearts beat under the scorching desert sun. White America has found its champion. Jim Jeffries, the Great White Hope, summoned from retirement for one purpose, to put a black man in his place. And what a better way to do it than America's founding day. But Jack Johnson's smile says what words cannot. The heavyweight champion of the world fears no man, and today, he'll prove it. 2 men, 1 ring, a nation holding its breath. But Johnson's reign as champion wasn't just about boxing. It was about how he lived his life outside the ring, a life that deliberately challenged the racial codes of Jim Crow America. While white America searched for a champion to defeat him, Johnson sparked even greater outrage with his personal life. He openly dated white women, most notably Belle Schreiber, a former prostitute from Milwaukee. The newspapers of the day were merciless. The Chicago Tribune branded him a defiler of white womanhood. The New York Times consistently referred to his relationships as scandalous and offensive to white sensibilities. But it was his relationship with Etta Duryea, a Brooklyn socialite, that caused the greatest uproar. When they married in 1910, headlines across America screamed in protest. The Pittsburgh Gazette wrote, "Johnson's marriage to white woman, complete defiance of racial barriers." In major cities, white citizens held protests denouncing Johnson's lifestyle. In Norfolk, Virginia, a group of ministers petitioned Congress to ban interracial marriages nationwide. In Atlanta, religious leaders called for boycotts of Johnson's fights. The champion's response was typically defiant. He bought faster cars, wore more expensive suits, and smiled that gold-toothed smile even broader. The racial tension exploded after each of Johnson's victories. When he defeated Stanley Ketchel in 1909, riots broke out in New York and Philadelphia. White mobs attacked black neighborhoods, burning homes and businesses. In Houston, 3 black men were killed for celebrating Johnson's victory too publicly. In New Orleans, police had to break up crowds of white men hunting for black citizens who dared to show pride in Johnson's success. Yet Johnson refused to play the role of the humble black champion. He drove purple cars, wore elegant suits, and frequented Chicago's finest restaurants, often with a white woman on his arm. When refused service, he would simply buy the establishment. The Chicago Defender reported that he once purchased an entire restaurant just to be served a cup of coffee. This was the atmosphere in which Jim Jeffries emerged from retirement. The former champion was fighting to restore what many white Americans saw as the natural order. Newspapers painted Jeffries as a savior. As fight day approached, the tension reached a fever pitch. Special trains arrived in Reno packed with spectators, many carrying signs reading "Save the White Race" and "Kill the Golden Smile." Johnson, meanwhile, continued to smile, driving around Reno in his flashy car with his white wife, seemingly oblivious to the hatred swirling around him. And while we want to show pictures of this, unfortunately, most of the newspapers or pictures of that time have been heavily censored. Just another part of an effort to hide and erase Jack Johnson's incredible black legacy.
Made close to $100,000, put it in a suitcase, walked out with his white woman, went back to Chicago, gave him a parade. And no white man ever put his hands on Jack Johnson, not unless he was in a boxing ring. You know what? Because Jack Johnson was not weak. All right, friends, VinceEverettEllison is here. I want you to go to my website, and on my website, you're gonna see a lot of great stuff, man. You're gonna see that we got t-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts, we're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it, make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good, and it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.